Pennsylvania Turnpike is more than $11 billion in debt. Tolls continue to rise, and the Auditor General came out recently and called it a road to ruin. Here to discuss that audit and what comes next for the Turnpike is the Auditor General himself, Eugene DePasquale. Your office contacted me last week to talk about the Turnpike, and then I thought, wait, you want to come on this week? Opening day is next week. You really just wanted to come on and talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates' upcoming season.
Well, obviously my historic rant the last time on the salaries.
It brought you back.
It did not get a dramatic change. Hopefully I can make more impact on improving the Turnpike because wasn't able to turn the Pirates around on salary investments.
Well, let's talk about the Turnpike. You called it a road to ruin and more than $11 billion in debt. For those that are unaware, why is the Turnpike in this position to begin with?
Well, this started with, and it basically is about a 10 to 12 year process where former Governor Ed Rendell wanted to, in a sense, lease the Turnpike to a Spanish company. There was a lot of pushback on that. Then there was an effort to lease or to toll Interstate 80. The Obama administration rejected that. But the money kept getting spent. And for now, 10 years, former Auditor General Jack Wagner and myself have been calling for changes for that, where the $450 million that the Turnpike is spending or sending to PennDOT every year for road and bridge work, there's just no revenue to pay for it, which is why the debt is so astronomical.
So I know a lot of this, what we're going to talk about is moving forward. How does it get better? What are some of the solutions? You were in the State House and you voted for this Act 44, or what became Act 44. What was the thought process then, and why did it fail?
Yeah, the federal government at that time came to the states and said, look, you've got to we're not going to pass a gas tax increase, so you've got to do something to raise your own revenue. And they were suggesting that we do tolling as one of the ways. And for us, in the legislature, there was a bipartisan consensus that the most likely toll road in Pennsylvania was Interstate 80. And then after that happened, they basically pulled the rug out from under us and rejected the tolling of 80.
So here we are, the tolling on the Turnpike just continues to keep going up and tolls continue to rise. It's literally the only road that people could take from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia across the state. So what's the solution? What are drivers and motorists supposed to do?
Well, the money has to, the $450 million that goes from the Turnpike to PennDOT, that has to get ended. And there has to be another revenue source for public transportation that cannot be Interstate 76 because it's just not sustainable. That's number one. That has to happen immediately. Because what's happening is, not only is the cost going up and up, but you said it's the only road from east to west or west to east, depending on which direction. But truckers and a lot of other vehicles are now using back roads, whether it be 30 or even going up to 80 and driving across, or using other roads because simply the cost is too high, and people just don't want to pay the high tolls.
So how do you make up that money? How does the money come in to make sure that the Pennsylvania Turnpike can be sustainable?
Well, if you eliminate the $450 million that the Turnpike is spending or sending to PennDOT, that will immediately help the Turnpike finances doing that. And then the legislature has to work with the governor on having another funding source for public transportation, but the Turnpike model just isn't sustainable.
I know Senator Ward came out this week and said she's going to kind of take charge and lead the way to come up with alternative solutions. I know you're pushing for marijuana, and we'll get to, I want to ask you about that in a second. What are some of the other ways that the Turnpike can kind of make up some of this money and have ulterior sources of financial gain?
Yeah, what I've said is, again, the Turnpike immediately improves financially if they have to stop sending the $450 million a year to PennDOT. And so then they can begin to stabilize their own revenue, because that's now they don't have to raise the tolls just to meet that number. And I said, look, if we were to legalize marijuana the same way they did in Colorado, that would bring in about $581 million a year. So you have $450 million that you may need for public transportation, another $150, $200 million for education, and there, call it a day without raising one tax on one Pennsylvania.
And that segues us into talking about marijuana, which is one of your biggest pushes, and you see what Lieutenant Governor Fetterman is doing now, going around all the counties and listening. One of the biggest pushbacks that I've seen from people that I've talked to, that I've listened to. They've said, why start a recreational marijuana program when we're still getting medical marijuana off the ground? And we haven't perfected that, and it could be one of the best in the country. I want to know what your response is to that. Why kind of jump in on recreational when medical still isn't even fully implemented?
Yeah, first of all, I recognize that it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think we've got to start the phase to where we're getting there, and that's number one. Number two, look, this is just, it's a better way to handle a very sensitive, controversial topic. I think having a regulation and taxation process is a much better way to handle the issue. I realize it's not 100% positive and zero negative. There's always a balance with these. I just think it's a better way to handle it. The revenue is astronomical. We're going to be able to create new businesses. And I have met with a lot of the people in the medical marijuana industry. Again, not everyone. There's not 100% consensus, but many of them also believe we need to have a regulation and taxation plan moving forward.
And like you said, this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. This is going to be a conversation that we have for months, if not years, to come. Auditor General Eugene DePasquale, thanks for joining us this morning on Fox 43. We'll be right back.